A special season ends in the Sunshine State. All that's left now is to reflect on the keys to their success and learn from the mistakes that ends their run in the national semifinals.
It was the way we competed every day in practice, the way we played every game, the way we just left it all out there, and the way we played for each other.
Run it back. Fantastic news for the offense as the dynamic duo of Nick Singleton and Katron Allen both announce they're returning for their senior year. And it's one and done for defensive coordinator Tom Allen. The former Indiana head coach stays in an assistant role and moves south to Clemson. What the change means for Penn State. It's time for Nittany Game Week. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski, back from the Orange Bowl, and unfortunately not headed to Atlanta. Joining me is former Nittany Lions assistant coach Jay Paterno. Instead of the national championship preview, Jay, we are doing a season review. Highly successful year that falls one game short of the ultimate destination.
But if you had gone back in the summer and said to people, you're going to be in the semifinals, you're going to be within a play or two of going to play for the national championship, you would say, yeah, you want to win the whole thing, but you'd be pretty happy with what you got. And there's been a lot of post-Orange Bowl kind of back, just second. Look, it was a great season, and I hope people will focus on that more so than what might have been.
Another stepping stone, another building block. Here's a guy that's been part of a ton of successful seasons in Happy Valley, former defensive coach Tom Bradley. It's time to look back on the year that was scrap. What stands out to you about this year's Nittany Lions?
I'll tell you the one thing I thought that they played very well as a team. It was one of the things I thought they were very team-oriented in everything they did. It seemed like when the offense was down, the defense would pick them up and vice versa. And I think that they got a taste of what it's like to get into one of these big games. And I think they have a lot of tremendous pieces put together for next year.
Well, the Nittany Lions always bring the championship fight. Key members of the offense want to run it back in 2025, and Tom Allen flies south this winter to join a different program in the same role. It's all part of our opening drive. Now, for me, the most glaring thing I see from Penn State is they have more than enough championship fight. These guys play hard, care about each other, and are talented. The problem is they don't have enough championship execution in pivotal moments against the top competition in the sport. It results in a close loss to the Fighting Irish in the semifinals, Jay.
Well, you get to a point where the margin of error between being a championship team and being almost a championship team is razor thin. And when you look at all three games, Oregon maybe not so much, but when you look at Ohio State and when you look at the Notre Dame game, the margin, the razor thin margin, and it comes down to executing in those key spots. And again, with a number of guys coming back next year, they've been there now, and they learn from it, and now they have the wherewithal and the understanding of what that takes.
Yeah, for sure. Jay makes a good point. When you have that experience, everything doesn't flush you as much. If you get behind, hey, we're behind, we'll figure a way to get back in it. When you're younger, you're like, oh, we're behind, now what are we going to do? But I think they've got a lot of great pieces coming back for next year, and Penn State should be excited.
A lot of great character guys in the program. They're hurting after the Notre Dame game. Still have the perspective to know they are knocking on the national championship door.
Guys just trust each other. Guys depend on each other. Guys believe each other. But, there's something we took pride in. We look forward to four-quarter games, having a tough battle, and, playing our hardest, playing our best. But, it was the way we competed every day in practice, the way we played every game, the way we just left it all out there, and the way we played for each other.
The King announced midweek that he would forego his final year of eligibility and enter the NFL draft.
Well, the defensive players that are staying will have a new defensive coordinator next year. Tom Allen has accepted the same role at Clemson. Tom, when you have a new defensive coordinator, sometimes for your players it's like learning a new language. How do you think that they'll adjust to that this year?
Well, it's interesting you bring up that point about the language, because that's the one thing. And I think, Coach Franken could say, hey, listen, I'm going to hire you, but you have to use our terminology. Make the defensive coordinator learn Penn State's terminology, so not everybody's learning the terminology. And I think that would be the best way to approach it.
Well, it's one of the things you don't see happen often. An assistant coach leaving for the same role at a different program. But Tom Allen talked about why he went with Clemson.
Appreciate Coach reaching out. Like I said, I wasn't expecting this. He did mention something I think was a big part of this, and that was my family. You know, faith and family is a big deal for me, and the culture that Coach has created here is very well respected and well known in the coaching profession. And then, you know, our 2 daughters he mentioned, they both actually live in the Carolinas. Family's it means a lot to me, and my wife has made some amazing sacrifices over the years for me to pursue the dream that God put in my heart to coach football at this level.
Coach Allen has another grandchild expected in the next month. Clemson lost to Texas in the first round of the college football playoffs and opens up next season with LSU. When it comes to the players, there is definitely a feeling of unfinished business with a bunch of guys returning to try and win a national championship together. We knew about Drew Aller. Running backs Nick Singleton and K-Tron Allen announced on the same day they want to run it back for their senior years. That's a bit of a surprise that they're both coming back.
Well, if you go back to 1985, Penn State loses in the Orange Bowl, and those guys all came back, albeit not for NIL money like that. That helps, obviously, now. But, you know, it's good to see that because Ohio State's had an offseason like this last year. They had a lot of guys come back, and they were older. Michigan the year before, so it should bode well for what comes next year.
Wide receivers Trey Wallace, Amari Evans both entered the transfer portal, and, of course, Tyler Warren's production is going to be sorely missed as well. And notice we didn't say replace Tyler Warren. You can't do that with a guy that talented. Going to be interesting to see how the pieces come together in 2025. Well, up next, our roadmap to victory, and there were a lot of them. Program record 13 in one season over the longest season in Penn State history, 16 games. Which areas they improved in compared to 2023? When we come back on Nittany Game Week.
Roadmap to Victory is sponsored by the R&R family of companies.
And welcome back to Nittany Game Week. There is certainly much to celebrate about Penn State's 2024 season, and no doubt it's a lot more fun to cover a winning college football program. Coach Paterno, we see a lot more good than bad as we review the Nittany Lions. One of the important things to do is a quick look at the latest game and then make some year-to-year comparisons to see where the team improved and where they may have slipped in some key areas.
And that's exactly what we're going to do, Todd. And, you know, everybody focuses on the last play of a game or the play late in the fourth quarter, but most of these games come down to 3 or 4 plays, and you never know when they're going to come. And that's certainly the case for the Orange Bowl loss against Notre Dame. And let's start out in the first half. In the first half, they get now we're looking at 2nd and goal. They go to the extra lineman who's going to come across, who's now an ineligible receiver, so they don't have to worry about covering him. The back being offset deeper than the quarterback is a run zone read tip. So now Notre Dame is betting they've got this guy to deal with, the quarterback, and the back coming out in the flat. So now they have 3 for 3, and you'll see that ends up helping them with this play. So as Drew Aller reads that defensive end and he closes, and then Tyler Warren gets jammed up, they're able to just close that thing down, and because 71 is ineligible, they can just close down on that one. Now, the very next play, now you're 3rd and goal. Now your back is even, and then you've got another back here. So everybody here is eligible. So now they've got to cover him. They make a decision that when that guy goes in motion, these two are going to double up on Tyler Warren, which is not the dumbest thing in the world. And now you got the matchup with the linebacker on the back, which is a matchup Penn State does win, but it comes down to just slight bit of execution. The throw's a little behind him. You'd like it in front of him, but you got to make a great catch sometimes to win those games. But that you make those, you're up 7-0, and now it's a different situation than 3-0. Now, later in the first half, you're up 10-0. Notre Dame's got the backup quarterback in the game, and now they get a blitz, they get a sack, they get the ball on the ground, and Abdul Carter has a shot to get this uncovered. And when you look at it, Penn State's up 10-0. The backup is in the game, 1:23 to go in the half, and 3 timeouts. So let's roll the video, and you'll see that ball comes out, hits the quarterback, the ball's down. Abdul Carter has that shot. If he gets it, Penn State's got that ball around midfield, and they've been very, very good at the end of first halves getting points when they have timeouts and time to go. And that half could have been 17-0, could have been 21-0 if that's the way the game is instead of 10-3. Very different second half. Now let's talk about some of the other categories in that second half. The third down numbers, Notre Dame did a great job in the last 9 of the last 12 third downs. They threw the ball well on third downs, got a lot of first downs. Penn State struggled on third downs, only 2 of their last 9. And throwing the football in the game, they did not call a pass and get a first down in the 5 passes that they called. And that's really one of those things that swings the game. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture as you look at 2024 versus 2023. Brought in a new offensive coordinator, made some improvements in total offense, rushing, passing, third down performance all went up, and you see the metrics of the improvements in those performances. Now, let's talk about how they did some of the things on third down, because this was a big difference for them. They got their running backs involved in the pass game, and they did a nice job. You got wideouts here, you got running back, wideout, and they do a nice job setting us up for Nick Singleton. We saw this a bunch this year. This was very, very effective. With Singleton coming back next year, I'm sure you're going to see a lot more of this. Really did a great job with him in third downs. Now let's talk about some of the things that they did not improve on, where they went down. Scoring was down. Fourth down performance, they were down. Red zone performance, they were down. Red zone TDs. And the interceptions went from 2 in 2023 to 10 in 2024, which is a big jump. So let's talk about that in terms of show you play where that became a situation, a problem. Here against Ohio State, 1st and goal in the red zone, they throw the ball and they get an interception. So the decrease in the red zone production and the increase in interceptions kind of converged there. Otherwise, that game may have gone Penn State's way. Now, flipping over to defense, let's talk about some things that improved defensively. Interceptions, they went from 12 in 2023 to 20. They're much better in the red zone, much better in red zone touchdown defense. Did a great job there. And let's talk about that. Here's an example of where that came into play. Here against SMU, Penn State had just gone for a 4th and 1 on their own 19-yard line, didn't make it. 14-0 off the strength of 2 interception pick sixes by linebackers. And now SMU's got a chance to close this within 7. They run the blitz. They got the inside release. And the linebacker coming off the edge, if he does not make this play, it's a 14-7 game. The discipline, the focus, and the production in the red zone defense made a big difference in that game and blowing that thing open, allowing Penn State to blow it open. Let's talk about some areas where they were not as good. And again, these are coming off of 2023 numbers, which were historically good. So just the decreases weren't necessarily a reflection that they were a bad defense. They were a really, really good defensive football team, but they went backwards in some areas where they were not as good. Run defense was one. And let's take a look at a play where you see the example here. They get out of line. Ohio State comes off the ball on a key third down, and they make the first down, move the chains, and put the game away. And in the big games, they had some of those times where they did not quite make the stop, and that's what to look for as you go into 2025. And Todd, hopefully we'll be making a long run and extra shows next year.
Thank you, Coach. Been a few weeks since Penn State's first-round playoff game against SMU. Soon after the final home contest of the season, renovations underway at Beaver Stadium. And oftentimes, renovations don't begin until there is a demolition. That's certainly the case in State College. Crowd gathers on a cold morning to watch the press box come crashing down. Definitely time for a fresh look and a new area for the press. Nittany Lions start their 2025 season with 4 consecutive home games starting August 30th versus Nevada. Don't go anywhere. Our Impact interview's coming up. We have the guy who's calling the national championship. Chris Fowler joins us to talk about the Nittany Lions' close call. More Nittany Game Week after this.
Impact Interview is sponsored by the Pocono Mountains, where small-town charm meets big adventures. Book your trip today by visiting PoconoMountains.com.
Well, welcome back to Nittany Game Week. This week's Impact interview guest is the voice of college football, Chris Fowler. He's on the call again for all the big games on ESPN, and that includes the national championship coming up on Monday night. When I talk to people about this program, I always talk about the championship fight that they have. I mean, they give so much effort. They got a lot of talent, championship talent, but not the championship execution. Give us an understanding of what you saw in their playoff performance, what you liked, and maybe why they came up a little bit short against the Fighting Irish.
Well, you said it. The margin for error is obviously super slim. You make a play at the end or you don't. Notre Dame has done a great job at making those plays all season long, especially the clutch takeaways. That's what they've lived by. And unfortunately, Penn State and the quarterback cooperated with that late in the game. I would have liked to see what had happened goes to overtime, because I think Penn State showed a lot in their first two playoff games, showed a lot really all season long. I think they were built for the run too. And the margin between them and Notre Dame was really very, very slim. So, again, you see these games that come down to a play or two, and the victories, you get to write the history when you make those plays, and Notre Dame did, and it's gut-wrenching for Penn State to fall short, but I think they accomplished a lot this year, and hopefully silenced some of the critics and some of the nonsense the way they played in some big games.
So obviously, Chris, nothing is ever perfect in its first year. So now that we've seen what the 12-team playoff looks like and it's been executed, what are some things you think they really got right, and maybe some things that you'd like to see them tweak?
I like the bigger field. It made for a very exciting stretch run. I like the fact that teams have a chance at redemption, Jay. That's something we've never really seen before in this sport. None of the teams really that made the semifinals would have been there in any other year of the format. Any other, including the 14 playoff, and certainly not back in the BCS and the dark ages. So I like that. I like that you can schedule tough, you can have a low point, you can bounce back, and you can write a redemption story, which Ohio State's obviously trying to do off the depths of a dismal loss to Michigan. Notre Dame's loss came super early, highly embarrassing, but not fatal. I like that. I think that I have a problem with the conference champions getting the automatic seeds just by virtue of winning, in this case, the Mountain West and the Big 12. I think there's a lot of support to fix that or change that anyway. I think they should get in the field, but like basketball, shouldn't be guaranteed one of the top four seeds. I'd be in favor, and a lot of people have said this, rank them 1 through 12, seed them that way, and set the matchups, and you don't get the automatic. But we saw that the buys didn't really mean much. The teams that won conference championships that had the bye went 0 for 4. And the teams that are playing now are all had to win 3 playoff games. So,
Chris, if they adjust the seeding as you suggest, and I think a lot of people would like, this unlikely we would ever see a 7 versus 8 seed again in the championship game, but that's what we got. What's your early outlook on the Buckeyes versus the Irish? And for you personally, when you get ready to call a championship game, do you feel that adrenaline pumping for yourself? And how's your preparation? Is any different for a championship game than you would for any other call?
A good question. First of all, I would throw the seedings out. I mean, the seedings mean nothing, and the seedings haven't meant anything for Ohio State since they got in the bracket. They've been favored to win these games despite being the lower seed, and that's again the case. The preparation is fun. I think that it was weird for us not to see the Big Ten. I mean, Jay knows that. We've talked about that. To be sort of excluded from watching any Ohio State, Penn State regular season games was weird. So it made preparation really challenging. We know Ohio State's program. We've covered some of those players in the past, but when we did the first round game against Tennessee, it really meant watching a lot of tape and having a lot of conversations and devouring as much as we could in the way of data and analytics and seeing practices. So it was different this year. We usually go to a playoff having seen the teams before in person, and we didn't this year. And the challenge for us is we saw Notre Dame way back in September in their opening game at A&M and haven't seen them since. I did go to a practice down here in Miami the week of the Penn State game just to kind of connect. I was trying to get to a Penn State practice, but they were just at the same time in different parts of town. So I had to make a pick, one or the other. I didn't make the wrong pick, I guess. But no, I think that it was cool to reconnect with them. I have a ton of work to do. I'm watching the Orange Bowl, and I'll go back and watch all Notre Dame's playoff games. I'll watch the Northern Illinois game early in the season, excuse me, to see what went wrong. So I love the preparation part, man. I love diving into the analytics and the data and watching the tape and having conversations with the players, which we'll get to do when we get to Atlanta. So yeah, you have to love the grind. You can't just love the 4 hours in the booth when you do this, right? I mean, it's just you can't hate practice and then love playing the game, right, Jay? So to do this job, you got to love the preparation, and I do.
Thanks to Chris Fowler for giving us a couple minutes of his busy schedule. One moment he's on Nittany Game Week, the next he's calling the College Football Playoff National Championship. Make sure you go to NittanyGameWeek.com for all of our Impact interview conversations, along with our web-exclusive content, like our depth chart at Nittany Game Week podcast. One final break for us. Still have our scrap metal recognition for a special group. Can't do all of this without them. Tom does the honors when we return. We're heading into the final minutes on Nittany Game Week.
Scrap Metal is sponsored by the We Are Inn, voted #1 game day restaurant in Center County. Follow us on Facebook and visit theweareinn.com or call for dinner or room reservations.
I'm not sure who will step up to accept the award, Tom, but you have some special recognition for our scrap metal.
That's a great point. Probably about 110,000 might step up to accept this award, but none of this is possible without them, the Nittany Lion fans, the best in all of sports. Everyone wondered if the playoff games would have enough people in the stands, whether it was the playoff game in Happy Valley, the Fiesta Bowl in Arizona, or the Orange Bowl in South Florida. Penn State fans showed up, enjoyed themselves, were loud, and supported the blue and white until the very end of a memorable run.
Now it's trivia time. Last week's question, prior to the season, how many bowl games had Penn State played after January 1st? The answer is 7. Now let's turn to this week's trivia question. Penn State's Joe Paterno holds the all-time NCAA record for bowl wins with a 24-12-1 record. Who ranks second in all-time bowl wins?
24. That's a lot. All right, make sure you check out our depth chart at NittanyGameWeek.com. The depth chart is a collection of businesses that support the show and provide our viewers with places to eat, travel and shop, or professional services owned and operated by people with a special connection to Penn State. If you have not noticed yet, we have a lot to share with you when it comes to Penn State sports, and it doesn't all fit in to a 30-minute window. Make sure to check out NittanyGameWeek.com for web-exclusive content. And I said Penn State sports because this is our final football show of this year. Nittany Game Week continues, though, every week as we start to focus on PSU's winter and spring sports. It will air on select stations of our syndication network. And, of course, you can always stay caught up with our show on our website. We finish with some pride picks. For Jay and Tom, I'm Todd. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We'll see you next time.